In a stunning security lapse, top officials from the Trump administration mistakenly disclosed classified war plans in a private messaging group that included a journalist, just hours before the United States launched strikes against Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis. This shocking revelation, first reported by The Atlantic, has ignited a political firestorm in Washington, with Democratic lawmakers demanding an urgent congressional investigation. The Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, broke the story, revealing that he was unexpectedly invited to an encrypted signal messaging group on March 13th. The group, called the Houthi PC Small Group, included high-ranking Trump administration officials discussing military strategy. Among them was National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who directed his deputy, Alex Wong, to form a Tiger team to coordinate the U.S. response against the Houthis. Just 2 days later, on March 15th, President Trump ordered a large-scale military campaign against the Houthis following their attacks on Red Sea shipping. However, hours before the first missiles were fired, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reportedly posted sensitive operational details in the chat. These included specific targets, weapon deployments, and the planned sequence of attacks. While The Atlantic did not publish these details for security reasons, Goldberg described the breach as a shockingly reckless use of an unsecured chat. When asked about the incident, President Trump initially denied any knowledge, stating, "I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic." However, White House officials later confirmed that an internal investigation is underway and that the president has been briefed on the matter.
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
They were using Signal to coordinate on sensitive materials and
Having to do with what? Having to do with what? What were they talking about?
with the Houthis.
The Houthis? You mean the attack on the Houthis? Right. Well, it couldn't have been very effective because the attack was very effective, I can tell you that. I don't know anything about it. You're telling me about it for the first time.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth also denied the allegations, calling the journalist deceitful and highly discredited.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, 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 or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. President Trump said, no more. We will reestablish deterrence, we will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly.
Why were those details shared on Signal, and how did you learn that a journalist was privy to the targets, the types of weapons used?
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Meanwhile, National Security Council spokesperson Brian Hughes acknowledged the authenticity of the chat, stating, "At this time, the message thread that was reported appears to be authentic, and we are reviewing how an inadvertent number was added to the chain." However, Hughes downplayed the significance of the leak, insisting that the military operation against the Houthis was not compromised. Who else was in this disastrous chat? The list reads like a who's who of Trump's inner circle. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and, bizarrely, Joe Kent, Trump's nominee for National Counterterrorism Center Director, who isn't even Senate confirmed yet. How did they let this happen? Democratic lawmakers have wasted no time condemning the security breach, calling it a blatant violation of national security laws. Some are demanding immediate congressional hearings to determine the extent of the exposure and whether legal consequences should follow.
On this text chain, conversations went at length about imminent military operations, including specific targets, weapons, and attack plans. These text messages very likely included classified U.S. intelligence. And the entire time, nobody seemed to realize that a private citizen without security clearance had access to this conversation. Mr. President, this is one of the most stunning breaches of military intelligence I have read about in a very, very long time.
You're talking about
As the fallout from this revelation continues, one thing is clear. The exposure of classified military plans, whether intentional or not, raises serious concerns about the handling of national security at the highest levels of government. The question now is, will Congress act swiftly to investigate, and what consequences will follow for those involved? We'll continue to monitor this developing story. For more updates on this and other breaking news, stay with us. Subscribe to my channel for the latest news and analysis.